Hi everyone, and welcome to day 4 of Spooktober. Now, today we're going a bit native. I say this because today's particular tale comes from a Native American tribe called the Ponca tribe. It occurs to me that I may have Native American viewers, and I hope that you know that I am in no way being prejudiced. I have Native American blood in me as well. I am part Cherokee and part Cheyenne. So yeah. This story has left its mark in the world of ghost stories and Native American folklore. So, it is, in my opinion, among some of the greatest ghost stories in the world. So, without further ado, let's begin. I hope you don't get too scared. Long ago, the Ponca people lived in what is now Nebraska. They dwelt in mat houses, cooked their meat in clay pots, and carved their weapons from stone and wood. But during a time of peace and plenty, the tribe was troubled by a fearful spirit called the Deer Woman. One night, there was a big dance to celebrate a successful buffalo hunt. The old men built a big fire, and the young woman danced around it, stepping sidewise in a ring. The young men danced apart, leaping and prancing in the space between the bonfire and the circling women. One young man, Greyhawk, paused and looked up. There, between two young women he knew, holding their hands, was a stranger. The most beautiful woman he had ever seen. Her hair flowed like a black waterfall over her white buckskin dress. Though it was impolite, he stared into her enchanting, deep, black eyes. While everyone around him danced and laughed and sang, he could only gaze into the lovely face of the young woman. At last, the woman stretched out her hand and drew him aside. Her eyes never left his. He was captured, and the thought pleased him. As the moon sank to its lowest point, she led him away into the shadows beyond the firelit circle of dancers. Now, Greyhawk had a younger brother, Many Arrows. He who watched what was happening, he felt uneasy, wondering who this woman was who had charmed his elder brother. When Greyhawk left with the young woman, Many Arrows hesitated, then decided to follow. To his horror, he found Greyhawk trampled to death, his body slashed and scarred by knife-edged hooves. The tracks of a huge deer were clearly imprinted in the earth. Many Arrows saw no moccasin prints except his brother's. What had become of the young woman? Many Arrows carried his brother's broken body back to the Ponca camp, raising a great cry. There, the oldest woman in the village told Many Arrows that his brother had been lured away and destroyed by the Deer Woman. She told the grieving young man there was nothing he could do to prevent the creatures coming and going among them. There was a great power in the demon woman. Anyone who gazed into her eyes just saw her loveliness and would be bewitched. Only if one could keep his eyes cast down would he see that her feet were a deer's hoof, which no moccasins would fit. But Many Arrows vowed revenge. Before the next gathering, a 7-foot wall of brush and logs was built around the dance ring at his request. When the dancing began, and all the people of the village were inside the circle, some men sealed the entrance with a gate of branches. The fire was lit. The women began dancing around inside of the ring's wall. Many arrows had made the other men of the village promise not to look up at the women's faces, but to keep their eyes on the dancers' feet, so that they could watch for the telltale hooves and not fall under Deer Woman's spell. But as the dance went on, the young men could not resist looking at the pretty women dancing around them. Soon, only many arrows refused to look up. So it was that he saw, in the shuffling line of moccasins, the sudden appearance of a pair of huge deer hooves. With a cry, Many Arrows threw himself at Deer Woman and grabbed for her. What had seemed to be a lovely woman suddenly became a huge deer, wearing the shreds of a woman's skirt. The young man tried to wrestle the creature to the ground, but she slashed at him with her knife-sharp hooves. Then, with an unearthly cry, the demoness leapt over the 7-foot wall. By the time the young man and his fellows wrenched open the gate and followed with drawn bows, the ghostly creature was bounding across the moonlit grassland, beyond the reach of any arrow. Though they tried tracking the creature in the morning, the trail soon vanished. After all, the dancers were always on the watch for the Deer Woman, but she never returned. From time to time, though, stories reached the Ponca people about a young man in some other village who had lost his life to the fearsome spirit. I hope you all enjoyed that spooky tale, and that you weren't too scared. Now, this makes me have a question for our viewers. As this is all in spirit of Halloween, I wonder, are my viewers going to dress up for Halloween? Do they celebrate Halloween? If so, what are you going to be? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to know everyone's ideas for Halloween costumes and that. Until tomorrow. See ya.